Guys, welcome back to another video on Cyberpunk 2077. Today we are going to be covering the Cyberware. I'm going to teach you guys about all the different systems that are revolving around the Cyberware, all the Cyberware that I'm equipping that's important to, the game and my playthrough and things like that. To begin with, we have to look at these bars on the side of the screen, right? You have your armor bar over here on the right, and the Cyberware capacity on the left. The most simple one is armor. It's just your resistance to damage. The higher this is, the more resistant you are to damage. This is the max armor that I can have. This is where my armor is at now. You see the maximum is 870. I'm at 522. All it is just higher this is, less damage I take. This side is where things kind of get a little finicky. The Cyberware capacity. I am at 238 of 239. Nominally 239. This yellow bar is where my normal capacity would be. It would stop at about here. If I didn't have Edgerunner and Renaissance Punk, I would not be able to have the extra 50 points here to be able to equip the Cyberware here. If you need help with any of that, just go back to the video where I discuss all of my perks. I go over that in more detail, but basically I have 239 and I'm at 238 right now. So I'm right underneath my threshold of maximum Cyberware capacity right now in the game. All of this is each of these pieces has a Cyberware cost. So you'll see the little yellow icon above all of the text for the item. That's the Cyberware capacity cost of this item. There's certain ones that cost more. So this one is 3, this one is 48, right? Because this one's an iconic and also it's a valuable piece and things like that. But basically, that little yellow guy is the values that are being calculated here. Onto the interesting part, the actual Cyberware that I have on my character. Let's go into the frontal cortex first, and you'll see that I have an iconic Newton module, right, called the Axolotl. All it does is it's a 5% cooldown instantly for all Cyberware after I neutralize an enemy. So basically, I get a kill, and I get a 5% cooldown on all of my Cyberware that have a cooldown. The more I slay out in like jobs and against enemies and fights and stuff like that, I'm going to be pretty much having an infinite uptime on a lot of my Cyberware. This is my Kolesnikov boost system. It improves Kolesnikov by enhancing the user's speed and reflexes when Kolesnikov is active, but it slows down time by 5% relative to your enemies. So basically all it does is it just slows down time more when I'm in my Kolesnikov, and I'll cover what the Kolesnikov is in a little bit once we get to it. Once I get more Cyberware capacity, I want to get Self-Ice, which automatically negates an enemy quick hack against me. Moving on to the operating system, you have a bunch of different options to choose from. You can hack with a Cyberdeck. You can use a Chrome compressor, which actually adds more Cyberware capacity. So if you equip this, it costs 0 to equip it, but it gives you the one that I have currently gives me 47 Cyberware capacity. Devastator slows down time. This one specifically, I can activate and deactivate. And when it's active, it slows time by 20%, but I'm not slowed. It gives me 14% mitigation chance, 7% mitigation strength. It lasts for 9 seconds and has a 70-second cooldown. That's why it's important to have stuff like the Axolotl that's going to drop my cooldowns dramatically. For my arm Cyberware, I keep kind of tossing it up between gorilla arms, which is what I was using, in the videos and stuff like that, and the mantis blades. The mantis blades are just swords that come out of your forearms, essentially, right? They act like a melee weapon. They get all of the benefits from the blade weaponry. Makes it so that you don't have to carry a sword. You can have other stuff and still have like a blade weapon at your disposal. The gorilla arms kind of does the opposite, right? Where instead of having a bladed weapon, you now have a better blunt weapon as your fist slot, which they basically serve the same purpose. They're the same thing. Next, we're going to move on to the face, which is just the eyes, the optics. All of these different optics have different like things that they do after scanning. So for example, the one that I use is called the Kuroshi Clairvoyant Optics. Effect active while scanning is it highlights enemies within 12.5 meters. The effect remains active for a minute after scanning, and when I use these eyes, I can zoom in when I'm scanning 6 times. That's literally all it does, is it highlights enemies pretty much through walls. Now, my skeleton slot is very important. I find that the majority of my builds will pretty much live and die by the skeleton. All of these will give you the most armor out of anything in this game. So bionic joints, all it does is give you armor. It's in tuned with technical ability, so you get 0.5 armor per attribute point in technical ability. And I have a total of 10. So that's 10 extra armor on top of the 90 armor that it was giving me already. Dense Marrow, it gives me extra melee damage and melee stamina cost, but it gives you an extra 26% or 26 armor, excuse me. Parabellum gives a 9% boost to your armor while also giving you 60 armor points itself. And it's also technically attuned so that I get 0.5 armor per attribute point that I have in technical ability. So it gives me an extra 10. So I have 70 on that, but it's actually giving me 113 because of that 9% armor. This is actually giving me 28 because of that 9% armor. This is actually giving me 109 instead of just 100 because of that 9% armor. So Parabellum is really carrying the armor game for me, right? Because if I completely unequip all of these, I drop all the way down to 279 armor from 522. So it almost cuts my armor level in half for getting rid of these. That is half of the protection I would have. That is half of the damage negation I would have. And that is me dying in every gunfight that I'm in for not having these where they're supposed to be. Your hand cyberware is, I think, an underutilized part of the cyberware, just for the simple fact of the matter of there's not a lot of variety to it. You have like maybe one or two things for each kind of play style, right? You have the micro generators for the tech weapons, right? The weapons that can shoot through the walls. You have Smart Link, which is for the smart weapons for like hacker builds. Ballistic coprocessor, which is for the normal power weapon builds, right? Just the normal firearms. Handle wraps, which is what I have equipped, which are for throwing weapons. And then you have shock absorbers for pretty much everybody that uses a gun, right? Because all it does is just it reduces recoil. The ones I have equipped are the handle wraps. When equipping or throwing a throwable weapon, I get an 8% increase crit chance with throwable weapons for 6 seconds. 0.2% headshot and weak spot damage increase per attribute point I have in cool, and I have a current total of 2.8. Then I have this iconic one. It's like a tattoo that goes on your arm. It enables the smart weapons stuff, but it also costs 0 cyberware, which is why I have it equipped, just so that I have the slot filled. All right, the nervous system is where things also start to get interesting, because this is my Kreznikov. Allows you to aim and perform ranged attacks while sliding, dodging, or dashing. Slows down time by 60% for 2.5 seconds when you aim a ranged attack during a slide, dodge, or dash. And the cooldown is 7.5 seconds. Stabber gives me 12.25% critical chance with blades and throwable weapons. So it's just increased crit chances so that I'll be able to get big damage numbers, more damage per second, be able to take down enemies as fast as I can. The Neo Fiber is mitigation chance. So the chances I'll take reduced damage, and then the mitigation strength, which is how much less damage. The circulatory system, however, is probably the one that I focus on the most when I first start up, especially to get Biomonitor. Biomonitor is my favorite thing in this game because it lets me not have to pay attention to my health most of the time. Automatically heals you with your equipped health item when your health drops below 50%. And it gives an extra 8% health item effectiveness. So all of your health items do 8% more for you. Heal on kill gives me plus 5% health whenever I kill an enemy. And micro rotors are pretty much exclusive for melee builds because it just gives you extra attack speed. This gives me 17% melee attack speed. And then last but not least, we have the leg cyberware. All of these different cyberwares have their own niches. So it increases sprint speed, starting at 40% and tapering off to 10% after 5 seconds of continued sprinting. Link's Pause makes it so that you have like quieter movement and you have faster crouch movement speed and you take less fall damage, which again is only beat out by the best leg cyberware in the game, which is the reinforced tendons, which basically it's just double jump. That was it for the cyberware in Cyberpunk 2077. If you guys liked it, please feel free to drop a like on the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment on if you learned anything or if you found anything particularly interesting. And I will see you all in the next one. Later.